Write a ratio of the first measurement to the second measurement. So we would be able to just do like 40 over 6.8, but this is in millimeters and this is in centimeters, and we can't write ratios of things in different units. You're killing me. What are you doing there? So we need them both to be in the same unit. So if you look, it says there's 1 centimeter to every 10 millimeters. So do you want to put everything in millimeters, or do you want to put everything in centimeters? You want to put everything in centimeters? Really? I think it's easier to put everything in millimeters. Because that would make this 68 millimeters. There's more millimeters in a centimeter than the other way around. So that'll change our ratio to 40 over 68. Now, that would be fine and dandy if that didn't simplify, but it does. What's a number that goes into 40 and also 68?
2. 8. 4.
Does 8 go in? I don't know. Let's try 4. I don't know. Let's see. So that would be 10 and then 17. So 8 wouldn't have worked.
It would?
It would not. Hate to break it to you, Eric, but you're wrong.
So that's our answer.
Oh.
The end. Good. You could also write 10 to 17 or 10 to 17.
Would you accept either way?
Yeah.
Okay,
Can we
so
do
like
a writing down this way?
Say that again.
Can we do a doing a 10 over the 17? Is that what we're losing the rate? Losing the point?
If what? If you switched it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it says first measurement to second measurement, and this is the first one, this is the second one. So you want to do 40 over 68. Okay, second one, solve the proportion. So we know that we can solve by cross multiply. So we have x times x plus 1, and then 3 times 2. I gave this problem to you so you can work on your factoring skills.
no.
Yes. So we're going to distribute and get x squared plus x equals 6. And then we're going to subtract 6. And practice our factoring skills.
3.
I'm factoring.
3 and 2.
What kind of 3? What kind of 2?
Minus 2 and plus 3.
So a positive 3 and a negative 2 will multiply to negative 6 and add to positive 1. Thank you.
Yeah, I just put them at a 16.
That's perfect. And so that would be how we would factor. After you factor, you take these guys and set them equal to 0. So I get x equals negative 3 and x equals 2. And you don't have to worry about plugging them back in because it's just a proportion. So we have 2 answers.
Nice.
Questions? No? Are you sure?
Wait, shouldn't you be recording this? Max is sick.
I am. Say hi, Max.
Oh,
Hi,
wonderful.
Max.
Hello, good day, Max.
Good day, sir. Okay. Number 3.
Max, remember that.
List pairs of congruent angles and extended proportion. I'm going to color code some stuff.
Yay.
So A and V are corresponding. And then that would mean that C and W correspond. And then B and T correspond. That's just going to make it easier for the angles and the extended proportion. So I'm going to put the angles over here. So angle A is congruent to angle V. So pink angles. Angle C is congruent to angle W. And angle B is congruent to angle T. So that's this part. List pairs of congruent angles. Then I'm going to list the extended proportion.
Can we use colors on our test?
Absolutely.
Yes.
So your extended proportion is relating the sides. So since there's 3 sides, you should have 3 like fractions, okay? with each fraction being a ratio of two sides. So I'm going to start with the side AB. So AB corresponds with VT. That's why the color coding is super helpful, right? Okay. So then I did these. I'm just going to put a check to say that I did them so I don't forget. Then I'll do AC. So AC corresponds with VW. And then finally, I have BC. So yellow to blue, yellow to blue. So that's going to be TW. That's my extended proportion that relates corresponding sides for the similar polygons. Questions? Okay.
I have a question. Are
Yeah.
there any systems of equations on this test?
No.
No. But there could be. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't put any on here.
Yay.
Wait, what was your question?
Systems of equations.
Oh, thank God. Oh, wait, no, I like systems of
I hate
equations.
systems of equations.
No, not to my knowledge.
I'll switch factors.
So for this question, it says the polygons are similar. Find the value of each variable. Before you just start jumping into it, we need to know what corresponds with what. So do you see how this angle is congruent to this angle, and this angle here is congruent to this angle? That means that 15 and 30 correspond. It also means that 37 and y correspond, and x and 25.5 correspond. So you're going to do like two separate proportions, one to solve for x, one to solve for y. To solve for, we'll do x first. We'll do 50 over 30 because those are corresponding sides. That is going to equal x over 25.5. Alright, so then cross multiply, so we have 15 times 25.5 equals 30 times x. And then I'm going to divide by 30. I'm going to do some simplifying here.
15
Numbers
and 30.
Numbers that go into 30 are like 5, so I could, for example, cancel a 5 out of 30 and a 5 out of 15.
Why do such
And then I could cancel, actually I could have canceled 15 actually. Yeah, so 3, and then that'll be 2. So I can do 25.5 divided by 2. So that's going to be, so half of 25 is, what, 12 and a half, and then half of that half is 0.25, so that's
This is a complex math.
12.75.
Honestly, you can just multiply that.
Wait, would it be 0.25?
Nope.
Oh. See, this is why I don't do decimals.
Okay, so that's x.
Sounds good.
To find y, you're going to do a similar proportion. It's going to be 15 over 30 equals y over 37. Cross multiply, you got 15 times 37 equals 30 times y. Then we'll divide by 30. We'll do a similar simplifying process. So yeah, 15 goes into 30 twice, and then you just get 37 over 2. You could leave it like that, or you could keep going. For number 5, you are going to use one of these 3.
Angle.
I'm not going to tell you which one it's going to be, but it's going to be one of those. So remember, this one says if two angles are congruent then the triangles are similar. This one says if two sides are congruent and the included angle, or not congruent, if two sides are proportional and the included angle congruent, then they're similar. And this one says if all three sides are proportional. Now, right off the bat, it's giving us two congruent angles, so I can probably eliminate this one. It's not going to be that one. Doesn't give us any side lengths, so it can't be that one either. So we know it's going to be this one, but we need to know exactly why. So these two angles are vertical. So angle WSR is going to be congruent to angle BSV by the vertical angle theorem. And that makes the triangles similar. So triangle WSR is congruent to triangle BSV, and we can say by angle similarity, because we know these angles are congruent and we know that these angles are congruent. These angles are congruent by given, in case you were wondering. It's given that they're the same, so that's why they're congruent.
Why is it so big?
So you drink a lot of water?
I just keep refilling mine, it's really annoying.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to just go out of class and just be like, you know, did I refill this again and again and again?
Oh no, I'm almost at a dehydrated cinnamon apples.
Dehydrated cinnamon apples.
Well, technically.
So at a certain time of day, a 1.8 meter tall person standing next to the Washington Monument casts
Meter person.
a shadow
Still probably taller than me.
of 0.7 meters. At the same time, the Washington Monument casts its own shadow of 65.8 meters. We want to know, how tall is the Washington Monument?
I think 5 feet.
Can we just look that up?
Yeah, we probably could. No, we're gonna set up
Wait,
a
I want to see how tall a
proportion.
person is to see if he's taller than someone.
1.8 meter? That's me. Seriously. A
I don't
1.8
believe that.
meter.
5 feet 10 inches.
I think I'm
Right. I'm 5'10".
Yes, Sonia, he's taller than you.
I'm 5'10", yeah.
I'm so sure.
Wait, do you want to stand up? Stand
Yeah, I'm 5'10".
I'll just pause this video.
up.
All right,
Probably like 5.
continuing our proportion. So I'm gonna let x be the height of the monument. So I'm gonna do x over 65.8. So monument over monument shadow equals G1 over G1 shadow.
Hey, Juwan.
It's my proportion.
I've been there. It's not that big, honestly.
Okay, Tyler.
Nah, it's huge, actually.
We know.
All right, I have to erase my picture because I gotta do math. All right, so we're gonna cross multiply. So we get 0.7x equals 65.8 times 1.8.
Lots of 8s in this row.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Can we use a calculator?
No, I promise to give you
No?
easier numbers.
Give us like 5 fives.
Yeah,
Multiples
just
of
like
5s.
multiples of 5.
118.
Like 2, 1, 5, 3.
Sounds good.
118.
So when you divide,
Eric,
you get,
Very cool.
Thank you, I tried.
oh, whoops, I typed that in wrong.
This sucks.
It's 169.2.
Am I crazy? This sucks. I didn't have it.
I have a lot of crazy songs.
I didn't have any other socks, and these were the most mild socks out of my sock collection.
169.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a
All right, there we go.
llama that's saying, "What's up with the drama llama?" It's like,
So you get 169.2 meters tall. That's how big the monument is.
Could have guessed
I
that
have an
number.
entire drawer
Yeah,
dedicated
same.
to socks.
I'll guess the next number.
I am going to redraw the triangles.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 3 right triangles. The biggest one, that's this one here, has a short side of y and a hypotenuse of 50. But it doesn't give us the long leg, this one.
That's stupid.
Yeah. The medium-sized triangle, that's this one in here, has a short side of x and a long leg of 40, but it doesn't give us the hypotenuse. Because the hypotenuse of the medium triangle is the leg of the other guy. And then the little baby triangle, this guy right here, has a hypotenuse of y, and it like technically doesn't give us this piece, but we can find it. What would it be?
10.
10. You got that just from subtracting 50 minus 40.
Very good math, Sonia.
It also gives us the long leg. It's x.
Oh, so it gave us everything.
Yeah, it gave us everything for that one. Okay, so now I think I'll find x first. I don't know why. No particular preference. And I'm going to use
Just 'cause.
these 2 triangles to find x. So my proportion will be x over 40 equals 10 over x. So you guys seeing where I'm getting those numbers from? X is the short leg and 40 is the long leg. So I did short leg over long leg equals short leg over long leg. Then you cross multiply and you get x squared equals 400. And when you take the square root of 400, you get
Not an even
20. Actually works out.
Really?
Yeah.
Have jokes on me.
That's new.
Mm-hmm. Alright, when we go to find y, I'm going to use the first triangle and the last triangle. So I have short leg over hypotenuse. So I did short leg over hypotenuse equals short leg over hypotenuse. Cross multiply and solve. You get y squared equals 500, and there's no square root of 500, so we're going to simplify. So I'm going to show that up here. So this is 5 and 100, and 100 is 10 and 10, so we can take out 2 10s, and we'd leave the 5. So y is 10 root 5.
So why didn't you keep going like 10 and 2, 5?
You can. I just didn't because it's faster to stop now. But you can. And you take out 2 5s and 2 2s and you multiply 5 times 2 and get 10.
Okay, so just basically stop there.
I can stop now. But
Okay,
you
as
can
long as
keep
you have
going
2?
if you want. Yeah.
Okay. I'm stopping there.
Yeah. It's easier.
If hopefully you give us an equation as such.
Number 8. So number 8 is a geometric mean. So there's
You want the vocab?
eventually on the day of the test tomorrow. For geometric mean, there's 2 ways you can do this. You can set up a proportion or you can just multiply and square root. So I'm going to do the proportion way just because that's kind of like the theme of the night.
Theme of the night.
So I'm going to do root 28 and root 7 and then x. It doesn't really matter too much as long as the numbers are across from each other and then you put x's across from each other. So this is x squared equals the square root of 28 times the square root of 7. I don't know if you guys know your square root properties, but you can multiply like 28 and 7 like that if they're both under the same type of radical. And then I'm going to simplify the square root. So what goes into 28?
2.
4 and 7, and then 2 and 2. So we can take out a group of 2s and a group of 7s. So that makes x squared equal to 14. And then I need to square root that. So x is the square root of 14. Alright, so just to recap a little bit, make sure you put two x's across from each other and then put the two numbers across from each other. You're going to multiply the numbers. So since these were like weird numbers, they were square roots, I multiplied them a little bit differently. And then, so I just like simplified the radical basically. But if you were to multiply 28 and 7, you could like get that number and then find the square root. I just didn't want to like do extra work for no reason, so I just broke it down instead. And then so x squared is equal to 14, and then you just square root that to get x by itself. Okay, number 9. So number 9 is another triangle. This is proportional pieces in here, so we're gonna set up a proportion. So 12 and 2x plus 2 is going to be equal to 7x over 5x minus 1. And we need to cross multiply. So 12 times 5x minus 1 equals 7x times 2x plus 2. If we distribute, 5x times 12 is going to be 60x. 12 times minus 1 is minus 12. 7x times 2x is 14x squared. And then 7x times 2 is plus 14x.
That's rough.
It is rough. See if you can get everything to one side. So subtract 60x and add 12. You always want to try to keep the x squared positive. So 0 equals 14x squared minus 46 x plus 12. Bless you. And then if you can divide everything by something, you want to do that too. So can we divide? Yeah, divide by 2. So 7, bless you, x squared minus 23x plus 6. Okay, do you want to factor or do you want to use a quadratic formula?
I'd say we shall factor.
We haven't really done a lot of factoring like this. But I'll go over it. So to factor, or to attempt to factor, you have to factor by grouping. So you multiply 7 and 6 together, and that gives you 42. And then you're looking for numbers that multiply to 42 that add to 23. And so I just started making a list and I found them right here. 2 and 21. So 2 and 21 make 23 and they multiply to make 42. So I'm splitting this up now to factor by grouping. So whatever I pick here, that's going to be what goes in the middle. So you're basically rewriting 23x as negative 2x and 21x so that you have 4 terms. So like 1, 2, 3, 4 instead of 3. And then you can factor by grouping. So factor by grouping involves taking out a greatest common factor out of each like couple. So looking at 7x squared minus 2x, what is a number or a letter that we could take out of both of those? X, good. That would leave us with 7x minus 2. And then looking at this second batch, what could we take out of these? Negative 3 is good. If this is minus, it's going to be negative. If this is plus, it's going to be positive. So that would leave us with 7x minus 2. So remember, if these two are the same, that means you did it right. Okay, these two should be the same, the things in the parentheses. So our factors are x minus 3, which is what I had on the outside. So whatever you have on the outside, that's one factor. Come on, little marker guy. You can do it. It's not working quite well. And then whatever is in the parentheses, that's your other factor. After we factor, what do we do next?
Set them on 0.
Set them equal to 0.
Oh, there's more.
Well, we still have to get x, so
Oh, right.
yeah, so factor and then set them equal to 0 and solve. So this one's going to be x equals 3. And this one's going to be
X equals something.
7x equals 2, so x equals 2/7.
Uh-oh.
Now, remember, once you get your answers, if you get 2 of them, you want to plug them back in and make sure that they don't make anything negative or like 0, because that doesn't make sense. You can't have a side length of 0. Then it wouldn't be there. Just quickly plug 3 back in. That's 21, so that's going to be 6 plus 2 is 8, and that's going to be, 3? So 15 minus 1, that's 14. So it looks like 3 is fine. 2/7. So 2/7 times 7 is 2. 2/7 times 2 is going to be 4/7 plus 2. It's definitely going to be positive. Here we get 10/7 minus 1 is also fine. So it looks like they both work. They're both fine. They're both positive. We make everything positive, so that's good. Questions?
It's a lot of work.
It was a lot of work. But if you can do that, you can do anything.
That mean I can fly to the moon.
Not quite.
You actually might need to take rocket science for that.
Rocket science, rocket science.
Alright, so for number 10, we would just be able to do a quick proportion. X over 12 equals y over 8. But if you look at this proportion, if we go to solve it, we can't because there's 2 unknown variables. So we can't do that.
I did that too.
I think I lied to you, Sonia.
Really?
This is sort of like a system.
Amen, brothering.
Sort of. It's sort of like it. We can't solve this because we can't solve x and y at the same time. So
I don't
it
get
gives
that.
us this piece of information right here.
What's happening with my candy cane?
I like how it says at the right, but the picture's underneath. So the perimeter of this triangle is 50. Now, how do you find the perimeter of a triangle?
Add all the sides up.
So 50 is equal to all the sides added up. So this side is x, this side is y. How long is this side? 20. We're going to use this to solve for one of our variables. Which one do you want to solve for, x or y?
X.
Sure. So to solve for x, I'm going to start by just subtracting 20. So I get 30 equals x plus y. And then if I want to solve for x, I'll just subtract y. So 30 minus y equals x. The purpose of doing this is to substitute this in here. So now we can get our proportion solved. So I'm going to rewrite this proportion as 30 minus y over 12 equals y over 8 instead of x, because 30 minus y is the same thing as x. And then I'll multiply Cross multiply and try to solve. So that's 8 times 30 minus y equals 12 times y. So 8 times 30, that's going to be 240 minus 8y, and that's equal to 12y. We can add 8y. And then, so what's y?
60.
Wait. How'd you get that?
20y. Never mind.
8 plus 12?
Yeah, I saw that just now.
24.
Not quite.
Guys, it's clearly 12.
12. So that's y. How do we find x?
Plug in.
Plug it back in. We can plug it right here. So what's x going to be?
12.
15 and a half.
I got 18.
How'd you get 15 and a half?
It's a joke.
Yeah.
Oh, I was very
I've never
I
seen
was
someone
very
that doesn't
concerned.
understand sarcasm like that much.
Very
If you're good at